kiddos! Today's learning target is I can present information about a social studies topic. So we're going to take our social studies research that we've been doing for the last few weeks and combine it with what you have been learning about using Google Slides. This week and next week, you're going to be working on a slideshow to teach your classmates about that humans and the environment topic that you were learning about. Now, some of you were learning about specific animals and how humans affect the animals' environment and how the animals are beneficial for humans as well. Others in our group focused on phenomena like things that happen in the world that humans are affecting the environment in the world, and that is in turn affecting the humans right back. Whichever topic you chose, today I'm going to take you through this checklist of everything that you are expected to include, the example, fill in the blank slideshow that you'll be using as your template, and also what you can expect feedback from me to look like to make sure you hit the target. So let's dig in and get started. In today's assignment, you're going to see this Google Doc. This is basically just a list to help you stay on track and make sure you include everything you need to include in your presentation. So this is an editable document because as you do different parts of your project, you can come back to the doc and highlight things and either change the text color or use the highlighter tool. I'll make that black again and use the highlighter tool. That will show you just quickly, it'll be easy to see which things you have done already and what you still need to do. So here are the things we are going to be looking for, and you'll have to include to be done. At the beginning of your slideshow, you need to introduce the situation. Introduce the topic of how people affect the environment and how the environment is affecting them right back. In the introduction, you won't go too deep into your details. That'll come later in the slideshow. But you have to get us ready to learn about whatever you're going to teach us. Next, you're going to need to talk about how people affect, you're going to have to actually explain it, how people affect the environment and how the environment affects people right back, which is really closely tied to this next bullet point. In fact, I'm going to put those together because you're going to need to do these three things as you explain. First, I'll be looking for 2 or more, that's why that's slanty, that's very important, 2 or more ways that people are affecting the environment as they meet their needs. What is it that people are doing in this situation you studied? 2 or more things. Then, 2 or more ways the environment influences the people right back. So I'm thinking about one of our friends who is doing research about turtles and learned about places in Caribbean islands where it was traditional to do certain things and act in a certain way with sea turtles. So that would be a very important thing to include as you explain how the environment affects humans and the way that they live. Remember, once again, 2 or more examples of the environment thing, the natural world thing affecting people right back. One other thing I'm going to be looking for is somewhere in all of this explaining, you're going to need a map to either show where the habitat you're talking about is, or just to show some point you're making about how people in the environment are interacting. Again, we're going to be working on this for the next couple of weeks, so if you have any questions, you can ask about them in a meeting, or you can send me an email or a message on Google Classroom. But these are basically the things we'll be looking for. You're going to end up doing this one just as you do the explaining. It's site-specific text evidence from at least 2 different sources that provide relevant information. You've more or less already done that when you did all your research. And at the end of your presentation, you're going to make a list of your sources so that when we get to the very end of the show, we can see what resources like websites and books and things that you used. Okay, so that's what we'll be looking for. I've made you a very boring outline of a project. Now, there are going to be places where you're going to add more slides, and we may even talk about moving things around depending on how your project goes. But basically, it's going to go like this. The first slide needs to have the title and your name. The next slide is when you do that introduction step, that first step right here, where you tell us what you're going to teach us about. I also mentioned that this is probably a spot where you might need more than one slide. Especially if you're including pictures, it's good to only have a little bit of information on each slide and just make more slides. It's easier for your audience if you only have a little bit of information on each slide. This isn't a place to put like a whole massive paragraph, just a few sentences on each slide. Okay, so you had your title, you did your introduction and got us ready to learn. This introduction might take a few more slides than are here. You can add new slides by clicking in between and then using the new slide button. Somewhere in this beginning part is probably where you'll have your map. Again, we'll talk if it makes more sense to put your map elsewhere, but introducing the problem and the interaction to us is probably the place for the map to go. Then you're going to have a few slides about the human connection. So, how does your animal or phenomena affect humans? And then, how are humans affecting the environment? Like, what are we doing that's not good? And now, how are humans affecting the environment in a good way? So this ending bit gives us a sense of that human connection really a lot more. I thought about it as the beginning part is introducing the natural side of things so that we understand the nature. And then after that, you start digging into the people part of the project. However, we'll talk if your project ends up making more sense in a slightly different order. We can work with that. It's going to depend because you're all doing such different topics. But generally, title, introduce what you're going to talk about the nature side of things and show a map so that we understand what's going on. And then introduce people into the equation. How do the animals and phenomenon affect people? How do people affect it right back? The good, the bad, and the good. At the end, this is like your conclusion sentence in a paragraph. This is the stuff you want to leave us, your audience, thinking about. So, is there anything we can do to help this situation? That would be a good way to end. This conclusion part is what you want us to remember when we're done. And finally, this last page is just going to be a list of your sources. Whew, almost done here, and then you can get started on your work. Before you go, I want to show you what it might look like when I give feedback. So one of our classmates has already started the presentation, but they're not done yet. So here's a great example. Here's a great example of a page with just a bit of information and some pictures. It's easy to digest and understand. But our friend had some places where we needed to add information. So what I did was I put slides in that included stuff that needed to be added to the presentation. And I highlighted it, in this case I used pink, to make it very obvious to the student that I was working with what was me saying, hey, put this in here, which was different than what they had on their own. However, before you can get to that step, you need to actually make a presentation, so I have something to give feedback about. All right, so today your assignment is to get cracking on your presentation. This is going to be an ongoing assignment that we will work together on, and you will do outside of meetings as well. Our goal is to finish in 2 weeks, so you have this week and next week to work. After that, we will share our presentations with our classmates and maybe even invite some friends from other classes to come check them out. That's all for this video. Thanks for staying with me till the end. I'll see you in the next one.